There's a reason people fear staying in strange houses. You walk into a home that isn't yours, sleep in a bed where countless strangers have slept, and trust that the smiling host on the other side of the screen is telling you everything you need to know. But what if they aren't? What if behind those glossy photos and glowing reviews hides something darker? Airbnb has changed the way we travel. Cheap, convenient, and everywhere. But beneath that comfort is a chilling truth. Some stays leave scars you'll never forget. Tonight, I'll share 3 disturbing TRUE Airbnb horror stories, each one more unsettling than the last. Stories of guests who booked what seemed like the perfect getaway, only to discover secrets that turned their stays into nightmares. If you think your next Airbnb is safe, these stories might make you think again. I had booked an Airbnb in late fall of 2021. It was one of those places that looked almost too cozy in the photos. A small cabin tucked away in a forest about 4 hours from my home. I'd been craving some peace and quiet after weeks of non-stop work, and the listing seemed perfect. Stone fireplace, big windows overlooking the trees, and trails that supposedly led down to a nearby lake. The host's description made it sound inviting, almost like they were selling an escape from the noise of everyday life. And honestly, that's exactly what I thought I needed. I arrived in the evening, just before the sun dipped below the horizon. The driveway was long and winding, gravel crunching under my tires as the forest grew thicker around me. Finally, the trees opened to reveal the cabin, a single-story wooden structure with a wraparound porch, its windows glowing faintly from the setting sun. It looked exactly like the photos, maybe even better. Quiet, peaceful, almost too peaceful. I unloaded my bags, made myself a quick dinner, and settled in by the fireplace. The silence outside was almost suffocating at first. I live in a busy part of the city, so I'm used to the background noise of cars, neighbors, and the occasional siren. Out here, though, there was nothing. Just the crackle of the fire and the faint rustle of wind through the trees. That first night was uneventful. I sat up late, reading, sipping on tea, and convincing myself that this trip was going to be good for me. A reset, a little solitude. I crawled into bed around midnight and drifted off quickly. The next morning, I slept in later than I meant to, nearly noon. I cooked breakfast, made coffee, and sat out on the porch with my mug in hand. The air was crisp, carrying that sharp chill that hinted winter wasn't too far away. By mid-afternoon, I decided to explore. There was a trail behind the cabin, faint but visible, leading deeper into the woods. I slipped on a hoodie and started walking. At first, it was beautiful, the kind of quiet path that feels like it hasn't been touched in years. But the further I went, the stranger it felt. The trail didn't curve or loop like I expected. It just went straight. About 10 minutes in, I noticed movement in the distance. 2 men stood out in the trees, maybe 200 yards off. They weren't hiking, weren't talking. They were just standing there, both of them facing down at the ground as if studying something I couldn't see. I froze, watching them from the corner of my eye as I continued forward. They didn't move, didn't acknowledge me, just stood there like statues in the woods. Eventually, the trees grew too dense and I lost sight of them. I tried to brush it off. Probably hunters, I told myself. Or maybe locals cutting through the woods. Still, I couldn't shake the unease crawling up my spine. Something about the way they stood so still it didn't feel right. I turned back before long, deciding I didn't want to get lost on some straight-shot path that might go on for miles. That's when I heard it. A sound, sharp, guttural, echoing through the trees. It was almost like an elk's bellow, but distorted. Wrong. My chest tightened as I turned around. The two men were now standing on the trail behind me, closer, maybe 150 yards away, facing me directly. I froze. The sound I'd just heard had been so loud, so unnatural, I couldn't believe it came from them. But the timing, the way they appeared just after it, was enough to twist my stomach into knots. I stood there for maybe 15 seconds before they stepped off the trail and disappeared into the trees. My legs felt like stone, but I forced myself to walk back. Slowly at first, then faster, until I was practically jogging toward the cabin. When I finally slammed the door shut behind me, I leaned against it, catching my breath. My heart hammered in my chest. I thought about messaging the host, asking if anyone else was staying nearby or if hunters often came through. But the words felt stupid in my head. What would I even say? Two men scared me in the woods. Do you know them? It sounded paranoid. So I kept it to myself. I built a fire, made tea, and tried to relax. By the time the sun went down, I had almost convinced myself I'd overreacted. But then I heard it again. That same bellowing scream from the forest. This time, it was closer. I froze, cup halfway to my lips. The cabin's thin walls muffled nothing, so I couldn't be sure just how near the sound was. I crept to the back window and peered outside, but the darkness was thick. I yanked the curtains shut and tried to focus on the fire. I told myself it was an animal, some rare species I'd never heard before. I even pulled out my phone and searched animal calls in the region, but none of the recordings came close. Half an hour later, I heard footsteps on the front porch. Heavy, deliberate. My blood ran cold. The thumping stopped right at the door. For 20 endless seconds, there was silence. Then a knock. Slow, steady. I crept to the peephole, every nerve in my body screaming not to look. But I had to. Two men stood on the porch. The same ones from the woods. Only now they wore cheap plastic animal masks, the kind you'd find in a Halloween aisle. One was a rabbit, the other a fox. Both had their hoods pulled tight around their faces. I stumbled back, fumbling for my phone. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped it as I dialed 911. The operator answered just as another knock rattled the door. I tried to whisper, explaining the situation, but I was sure they could hear me through the thin wood. Then came a sudden, violent thud, like something sharp slamming into the door. I nearly screamed. For a moment, I thought they were coming in, that this was it. But then, just as suddenly, I heard their footsteps retreating. I pressed my face to the peephole again. They were walking back into the woods, slow, casual, like they had all the time in the world. Police arrived half an hour later. The officer found a fresh gouge in the wood, right at chest height, as if a knife had been driven into the door. He took notes, but didn't look convinced. To him, I was just some city dweller spooked by country noises. Still, I packed my bags that night and left. There was no way I was staying another second in that cabin. I never found out who those men were or what they wanted, but sometimes, late at night, I hear echoes of that sound in my head, that distorted, unnatural scream that followed me through the forest. And I wonder if they're still out there, waiting for their next guest to stumble into the woods. I travel a lot for work. In 2022, my company had me flying out every other week to different branches across the country. Most of the time, they booked me hotels. Sometimes, if availability was low or the trip was longer, I'd get an Airbnb instead. Usually, it was a nice perk, a little variety, something different from the sterile look of hotel rooms. But there was one stay one that still keeps me awake sometimes. that I wish I had never agreed to. The place looked incredible on the listing. A huge two-story home, nearly 5,000 square feet, with a massive yard and wide open living areas. The price was shockingly low, the same as a small one-bedroom in the area. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake, but the dates were available, the reviews were decent, and the location was only about 40 minutes from my job site. So, I booked it. My flight got in late. By the time I drove out to the address, it was nearly 1:00 in the morning. The house sat at the end of a long, empty road with no other houses nearby. When my headlights swept across it, I actually said out loud, "Jesus, this place is huge." I double-checked the address because I couldn't believe it. A 5-bedroom house with a wraparound porch, a long driveway, and a yard that could have fit 3 more homes. And all of it was mine for the week. At least, that's what I thought. Inside, the house was odd. Not dirty, not damaged, just strangely lived in. Some of the couches had pillows scattered on them. A jacket hung on the back of a chair, and the kitchen table had one chair pulled out, as if someone had just been sitting there. At first, I thought the cleaners had just been lazy about resetting the place after the last guests. I shrugged it off, carried my bags upstairs, and collapsed in bed. The house creaked a lot that night. Not just random settling, but long, groaning stretches of wood, followed by sudden, sharp knocks on the walls. Every time I started drifting off, another noise snapped me awake. I told myself it was just an old house. Big houses probably made bigger noises. Eventually, I got tired enough to sleep. The next morning, I left early for work. When I came back around noon to grab lunch, everything was normal. No strange feelings, no signs of anything wrong. I almost forgot about the noises from the night before. It wasn't until the second night that things turned. I'd gone out for dinner with a couple coworkers and didn't get back until close to 11:00 p.m. I walked inside, tossed my keys on the counter, and noticed immediately that the kitchen chair was pulled out again. The same one from before. I knew I'd pushed it in that morning. I was certain of it. I stood there, staring at it for a long time. My first thought was that the host had come in without telling me, maybe to grab something they'd left behind. But that didn't make sense. They'd have no reason to sit at the table. I pushed the chair back in, told myself I was being dramatic. I showered, brushed my teeth, and got into bed. And just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard it again. Creaking, footsteps. This time, I knew it wasn't just the house. These were slow, deliberate steps, moving from one end of the floor below me to the other. I sat up, holding my breath, straining to listen. Cabinets opening, closing, drawers sliding. Someone was in the kitchen. My heart pounded so hard I thought whoever was down there would hear it. I crept to the bedroom door, eased it open, and peered into the dark hallway. The sounds didn't stop. Whoever was down there wasn't trying to be quiet. I stepped into the hall. The floor creaked beneath me, and instantly, everything below went silent. I stood frozen, staring down the staircase, barely able to breathe. A light flickered in the kitchen, faint but visible. I was sure I had turned every light off. With shaking legs, I crept down. Each step groaned under my weight. When I reached the bottom, I turned my head toward the kitchen and froze. The chair was pulled out again. Only this time, it wasn't empty. Someone had been sitting there. I knew it. The air still felt heavy, charged, like whoever it was had just slipped out of view. Then, in the far corner of the kitchen, past the chair, I saw movement. A figure leaned just barely out from behind the wall, their face hidden in shadow. Watching me, I couldn't breathe. We locked eyes for maybe 2 seconds before they jerked back, vanishing into the darkness. A second later, a door slammed somewhere deep in the house. I ran. I bolted up the stairs, grabbed my phone, and sprinted out the front door without even thinking. I didn't stop until I was in my car, doors locked, shaking so badly I could barely dial 911. The police showed up about 20 minutes later. They searched the house top to bottom, but found nothing. No signs of forced entry. No belongings that didn't belong. No one hiding. But here's the thing that still eats at me. The host claimed there were no basement doors in that house. No way someone could have slammed one like I described. And yet, I swear on my life, I heard it. I saw that shadow move. Someone was in that house with me. My company moved me to a hotel the next morning. I didn't argue. To this day, I can't explain how or why the host had listed that place so cheap. But if I had stayed one more night, I'm not sure I'd be here to tell the story. I booked the place because it looked safe. After a string of hotels and late-night check-ins that left me drained, I just wanted somewhere quiet, somewhere normal. This Airbnb was in a suburban neighborhood, tree-lined streets, neatly mowed lawns, friendly families walking dogs in the evenings. The listing showed a tidy, modern house with 3 bedrooms, a spacious living room, and a backyard patio. The price wasn't cheap, but I told myself it was worth it. I was traveling alone, and after the last nightmare of a stay, I craved peace. The host's name was Margaret. Her profile picture showed a smiling woman in her late 50s. Every review praised her as warm, welcoming, and easy to communicate with. That reassured me. When I pulled up to the house, she was waiting on the porch. "Welcome," she called, waving. She gave me a quick tour. Kitchen here, living room there, bedroom upstairs, laundry in the basement. She spoke fast, almost rehearsed, but she smiled the whole time. Before she left, she added, "Oh, one last thing. This door, here," she gestured toward a narrow white door at the end of the upstairs hallway, "is locked. That's just storage. Please don't worry about it." I nodded. No big deal. Lots of hosts kept closets or pantries locked. That night, I settled in with a book on the couch. Around midnight, as I was heading upstairs, I noticed something odd. The locked door at the end of the hall, it looked like it had shifted. Not wide open, but not completely closed either. I froze halfway up the stairs. Margaret had said it was locked, yet now it stood slightly ajar. I crept closer, my heart hammering, and gently nudged it with my fingertips. It didn't move. It was sealed tight, like before. Maybe I'd just imagined it. Maybe my tired eyes were playing tricks. I tried to laugh it off, but that night, lying in bed, I woke up to a faint click, like a door latch easing open. Then, footsteps, soft, dragging, moving just outside my room. I sat up in bed, every nerve in my body on fire. The sound stopped right at my door. I held my breath. Seconds passed. Then, slowly, the floorboards groaned as if weight shifted back toward the hall. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I asked Margaret, trying to keep my voice casual if anyone else had access to the house. "Oh, no," she said, smiling. "It's just you. That's the whole point of Airbnb, isn't it?" I nodded, pretending I believed her. But that night, it happened again. This time, I left my phone recording on the nightstand. Around 2:30 a.m., the recording picked up faint movement, a creak, a shuffle, a door latch clicking shut. When I played it back the next day, my stomach dropped. At the very end of the audio, just before silence, there was a whisper. A man's voice, low and raspy, right outside my room. "I saw you." I packed my bags immediately, but before I left, I couldn't stop myself. I had to look inside that locked room. I searched the kitchen drawers until I found a thin knife. My hands shook as I slid it into the frame of the upstairs door. A click. The lock gave. The smell hit me first, sour, musty, like sweat and rot. Inside was no storage. It was a small, bare room. The walls were lined with old sleeping bags and stained blankets. Empty food wrappers littered the floor. In the corner sat a bucket half full of something dark. And above it, scratched into the wall with something sharp, were words that made my blood run cold. "Don't trust Margaret." I staggered back, choking on panic. That's when I noticed the small vent near the ceiling. A vent that connected directly into the guest bedroom. My room. Whoever had been in here could watch me. Listen to me. I didn't wait another second. I ran out of the house, shoved my bags into the car, and peeled out of the driveway. I never contacted Margaret again. Never left a review. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder about the man's whisper. "I saw you." What did he mean? And if he saw me, why didn't he stop me from leaving? Airbnb promises comfort, safety, and a home away from home. But as these stories prove, sometimes what you find behind those doors isn't comfort at all, it's danger. The next time you scroll through glowing reviews or admire spotless photos, remember, you're stepping into someone else's space. And sometimes, they never meant for you to leave. If these stories sent a chill down your spine, let me know in the comments below. Would you ever stay in an Airbnb after hearing this? Or have you had your own unsettling experience that could rival these nightmares? Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more real-life horror stories that will keep you up at night. Because sometimes, the scariest monsters aren't in haunted houses. They're in the ones you book for the weekend.